Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. My camera's out of focus. I'll fix that in a second. I've just as we've gone live. I don't know what's going on there. That's probably improved it for many people watching this, to be fair. Yes, welcome. Obviously, as it says in the title, we're here to preview Brighton. We've got Sean back on. It only feels like yesterday since Sean was back. Since Sean was on the channel previewing United versus Brighton. Yeah, we're meeting quite a lot on here, aren't we, Sean?
I was going to say, we have to stop meeting like this, but a delight to be back as always.
It's a pleasure to have you on. It's going to be another good show, I'm sure. So yeah, we'll dive straight into it. We've got obviously a lot to talk about. We'll talk about Skinner's comments as always because his press conference was earlier on today. Talk obviously about predicted 11. Talk a bit about Brighton and a couple of their key players and all things like that. And yeah, anything that you want to ask in the chat as well. We'll go through all of those kinds of things. Barry, throw it over to yourself first then. How are you feeling going into this one? Are you confident, nervous? Well, obviously, because we're coming off the back of a poor result against one of the teams in the bottom of the WSLs, drawing against West Ham at the weekend. So has that knocked your confidence a little bit? Are you confident going into this one? What's your general feeling going into this one?
I mean, the question was how am I? I've got a number of different feelings running through my body at the moment, Connor. I still can't get. Oh, he's gone again. Where's it? Oh, he's there. Crikey, what is going on with your camera? Blimey, what sort of 2-bit operation is this? The first thing I'm thinking and feeling is that obviously I'm looking forward to seeing your blurry but beautiful quiff once again in person. Very much looking forward to that. I'm hoping that Sean's going to be there. And so therefore, you going, Sean? Are you going to be at the match?
I am not. On the basis I live 4 hours away from Crawley, but other than that, I would have been there in a heartbeat.
Oh, how disappointing. I thought it was going to be the chance there for me to finally meet Sean in the flesh and get his autograph. So that's a real shame. No chance to see Sean there. That's to be honest now, I feel quite sad. I was quite looking forward to seeing Sean. So that's ruined that bit. But I suppose when you take it round to the football, it's just the usual, isn't it? I mean, it's football, isn't it? So we've just got to sit here and treat it like any fan really should, which is it's the FA Cup, guys. This is literally what it's all about. This is everything that we've got a chance of winning. It's the last chance saloon for Manchester United. And I'm looking forward to busting down the old double doors, walking in there with our little shotguns and pistols ready to go, shouting yeehaw, and hopefully shooting the place up. With a football, of course, obviously. And, hopefully lots of shots on goal, lots of fun to be had. And, hopefully we come out of it on Saturday with all the joy that we could possibly want to have. So I've just decided I'm going to try and be optimistic because I don't feel like I can just be pessimistic for the rest of the season. That's not me. So, yeah, I'm going to go into this in the hope that we'll win this one and that we'll be one step closer to another amazing day out at Wembley. So that's how I'm feeling today.
I'm glad you rectified your statement there about shooting the place up because otherwise me and you would not have been getting into the ground on Saturday.
Not with a gun, with your feet. It's football, isn't it? Shooting. Pow.
But yes, I mean,
mind moving.
Not back onto films, are we? Don't want to go down that route again. But Sean, I'll throw it over to yourself. Heinen's made up, obviously, from a United point of view, of saying if it wasn't for the West Ham result, be a bit more confident. Obviously, most recently for Brighton, putting 7 past Bristol in that crazy game at Ashton Gate. So how are you feeling going into this one from a Brighton perspective?
Yeah, it's an odd one because I feel like whenever I come on and we do predictions at the end, I always say we'll get a draw because I don't like putting Brighton to lose anything, regardless of what sport it is, what team it is. But I think it's the first time I generally feel quite confident. I feel like we could do something. Obviously, the 7-3 it's very rare that Brighton score 7 to begin with. I don't think it's happened for years and years and years. But I think the key from that 7-3 is we had 6 different goal scorers. It wasn't just the Elizabeth Turland show. People were turning up. Different kind of system, different sort of players in different slots. But I think confidence has really picked up in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, I think this could be the time where we pull out a big result again. I mean, we've done it against Manchester City once this season. Let's do it against the other Manchester club.
I was going to say, that's the feeling I get from what I'm feeling as well, off the back. I wouldn't have been confident even if we'd have beat West Ham, to be honest. But I mean, I still am. I still think we'll get the job done and make it through to the semi-final. I'll give them a prediction at the end. However, after seeing what Brighton did to Bristol, at a place we didn't struggle against Bristol, but certainly wasn't as easy as they're knocking 7 past them, albeit Brighton's defence was leaking a few goals as well against Bristol, whereas ours didn't. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, we played you. I don't know what else now. Was it the start of February? I think it was. Obviously at LSV, the 2-0. We know obviously the 2-2 draw. And Barry, I'll come over to you in terms of the last time United and Brighton met in the semi-final. In the FA Cup, sorry. It was the semi-final, though. Obviously, that 3-2 win at home. Do you want to just relive that for a moment? Because I think I should have brought the video on screen. Because I've got a brilliant video of the Williams goal, and you just realising I'm filming, turning to the camera, going, Rachel bloody on camera. So do you think
I was most impressed. I censored myself. That was pretty good. I realised that was clearly going to be used for PG content. So
for the people that have been following us since that, obviously over a year now, you saying you censored yourself out. I didn't on the tweet. I went full swearing on the tweet. I remember getting a text off you going, "Oh, didn't hold back then."
Ages. But it was good. That was the last game, really, wasn't it? That we went to. Sort of together. You obviously had a little bit of time away, and the last game last season that we had, and with the exception of Arsenal, which, let's be honest, I'm trying to scrub from my memory. It's not quite been the case. So listen, it was a good result at the end of the day. Winning 3-2 is something that you want, but for me it was historic. That was the first time we'd been in the FA Cup with the women since 2018 when we were reformed. And I just remember, thinking to myself, I've got to be there for this. I've got to be there for this because this is history in the making. This will be the first time that the girls make it to Wembley. And I want to be there. I want to be there to say I was there for that. And I'm glad that I was. We've traditionally done incredibly well against Brighton. And I'm sorry to say I can't actually remember who scored the goals. It's all gone a bit of a blur. All I can remember now is turning to you and going, "Hey, Rachel bloody Williams." I know she obviously scored one, but it was right at the end again. But that's what we were doing, week in, week out, getting a goal right at the end of the game. The FA Cup, all form goes out the window. We know that. It's just a one-off match. So Sean's right, I suppose, to be coming into it feeling quite pleased and feeling quite confident because they've had a good result and all of that jazz. But equally for us, we don't have the worries of how this is going to affect our league position. This is just it now. This is one big game. And I still say, regardless of what's going on defensively, regardless of anything else that's happening at our club at the moment, we, pound for pound, still have a better squad, in my opinion, than Brighton. And we should be, therefore, still quite confident of the fact that if we turn up and play the football that we know we're capable of playing, then we should be capable of getting another win. It might not be to the sort of margins that I have predicted before, but maybe that's what we're looking at again on Saturday, is another 3-2 or a 2-1 or a 4-3. It could be really, really close. It could be a really entertaining game. There could be goals at both ends. We could be looking at this and it might be 6-5 at the end. Could go to penalties. Who knows what could happen? And I think really that's kind of where I am. I'm just absolutely delighted that we've got this opportunity, because without it, the season was pretty much dead, wasn't it? So I'm hoping that we're going to channel the same sort of feeling, the same sort of things. And if we get a last minute winner, I'll take it. But I'd much rather we smashed them 5-0, because I'm not sure my heart's going to take too much more of that live and in colour.
Yeah, not me. I like a bit of jeopardy, but maybe not this
season.
No,
you don't want the jeopardy. Do you not remember last season? Do you remember last season, everyone watching this? We want the jeopardy. We love it. No, we don't love the jeopardy, because this season we've not been getting the late goals.
I got more stresses. Well, no, I don't actually, to be fair, but it feels like I got more stresses now than I did a year ago. So That's probably why. But Sean, from a Brighton point of view, as we said, obviously United do have a pretty good record against Brighton. Obviously, I think Brighton have only won once in all of the meetings. But in the last 3 games, as we mentioned, obviously the FA Cup game at LSV, the 3-2, took a late Rachel Williams winner. The 2-2 draw in the away game earlier on the season, and only a 2-0 win for United at LSV just about a month ago. Do you think Brighton will take that as a positive? The fact that they know in recent times can get some success against United.
Yeah, of course. And you mentioned that 3-2, and for a Brighton fan, that feels like a lifetime ago. That was Mel Phillips' first game in charge, and so much has happened since then. But I think what you've seen with Mel Phillips and now Mikey Harris is against the top teams. We do have to still class United as the top team. Like, I know some people will say, "Oh, we're not up with the top 3," but United is still a top team, and we are improving week on week against those teams. The players are becoming more confident, and everyone sort of knows their job now against a big team. And I think if you look at the big teams, I guess you count United as possibly the easiest scalp. And that's no disrespect, but you compare it to United, to City, to Arsenal, to Chelsea. From a Brighton perspective, you think, okay, we can get something from United. Because if we've got something from City already this season, then what's stopping us from getting something against United? And I agree with Barry. I think if you look at the team, United are a better squad than us. United are a far more talented squad than us. I don't think any Brighton fan would deny that. But thankfully, football is not played on paper. It's played on a pitch. And I do feel like we are getting there. This is the season where we're getting there. And we had such high hopes at the start of the season. People saying, it could be dark horse for the top 6. And yeah, me too. Fair enough. And but no, I feel like we're getting there. Under Mikey Harris, there's a bit of stability now. The performances are getting better, and this could be the biggest tick in his tenure so far. But I'd like to preface this by saying my dad has just texted me saying Roma have gone 4-0 up against Brighton in the Europa League. So I'm very thankful to be here with you tonight.
Yes, we're glad that you chose us over the Brighton men's side this evening to talk through all things there. Yeah, I think
you're still in Europe.
Well, yeah. The less said about the men's side, the better. From me, I'm not even going to say go on to that. Yeah, I don't even know where to go from that one. I think, when you're looking at obviously the 2-2 draw, me and Miriam did a show on this. Well, not on this in particular, but the defensive issues, and there was a lot of it in that game, in the away game earlier on in the season. And to me, we've not fully rectified all of that yet, because we're still conceding the same type of goal as we conceded in the first game of the season against Villa, and we're now this far in, and we're still conceding those same types of goals. Highlands asked you a question, Sean, so I'll come to you on this one before we move it on back to United a little bit. Are you surprised that Brighton seem to be waiting on a new permanent manager?
I was surprised at the beginning. I thought maybe during the international break would be a good time to hire a permanent coach. I know there are a couple who are linked with it. Mark Parsons was one that seemed to be quite high up on the list, because he was at a Brighton game. I can't remember which one, but he came down. I think it was Villa in the Conti Cup. He came down to watch us, but there haven't been any real names linked with the job. And Mike Harris has been very open and honest. I think he's setting himself up for these final 7-8 games in charge. I think he'll be him for the rest of the season. Whether he wants it full-time or not, he hasn't indicated that he does want it full-time. He has said he's seen it as an interim role, but I think the players are buying into what he's bringing in. The confidence is going up. So for now, I'm quite happy. I think most fans will be quite happy that Harris will be there until the end of the season, because I think that win over Bristol's really eased fears of relegation now. And I think, I think there's a feeling that just go for it now with Mikey Harris, see what happens, and see what the summer brings then.
He might stay?
What do you say, sorry?
Do you reckon he might stay? Do you reckon he might go for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and just go, go on then, we'll give you a whole contract?
I have no idea. Because in his press conferences, he's quite calm. He's not really talked about wanting it full-time. He's never stated at all that he sees this as a full-time role, because obviously he's coming from the academy, and he's done a really good job with the Brighton academy, the players that have come through, players starting to get into the first team. I think it's a big tick in his box that he's doing what he's doing in the academy really well. And this is his first venture into women's football as well. He's not done anything on the women's side before. So he's still learning on the job. But I don't think I personally would like someone else in for the start of the new season, but for this season, I don't think he's done any wrong so far. So yeah, but we'll see. He's not given any indication that he wants it full time, but we'll see. It's a funny old game, isn't it?
So there's a lot of manager roles obviously potentially moving about this summer. Obviously, potentially United. Obviously, Chelsea's still not fully confirmed theirs, even though it looks like they're pretty much nailed down for the coach from Lyon. Barcelona, although it looks like they're going to recruit from within. Juventus, obviously now potentially, and if Suzanne moves from Ajax will also be looking for a new manager as well. So there's going to be a lot of potential movers when it comes to managers.
I've got another question for Sean.
Oh,
so if Skinner doesn't get a new contract at the end of the season, would you take him?
See, I've been thinking about this because part of me does.
Is that one of your questions, Connor?
It wasn't actually, no.
Yes,
because I think if you look at what he did at Birmingham, he did a good job at Birmingham. I don't think anyone's going to doubt that. And I feel like I don't think he is a fit at United. I don't think many people think he is a fit, but I would be quite excited if he did take the Brighton job. I think he can do certain things. He can put certain things in his place. He's got the experience now of being in a high-ranking WSL team. He knows the standards going on there. And I feel like for Brighton, that's what we're trying to push for. I feel like he could be a good bridge between fighting relegation and going into top half football. So if the opportunity did come around for Skinner to come, I don't think the Brighton board would say no to that. I think it'd be, I think most of the fans would be thinking, you know what, it's not a bad appointment, that.
I want to come back to you, Sean, on Skinner in a second when we talk about obviously some of his quotes, and just I just want to get a gauge from a non-United fan's perspective in terms of some of the things that he said and that kind of thing. In regards to your question on how long was at Birmingham, 2016 to 2019 was when Mark Skinner was there. Then obviously he went over to Orlando, and yeah, it's fair to say it didn't go very well from over there. I think it was like a 20% win rate or something like that with that team as well. Yeah, wasn't great when he went to America. TJ, and answer your question, it just ended up as being an interest. She was on a list. It was never going to happen. Certainly not in January. So that answers that one. We may as well just get the Skinner stuff out of the way because I don't really want to talk about it for too long. Because not going to lie, it's just draining me every single time that we talk about it, and I just can't be bothered. Not going to lie, I shouldn't really say that on here, but I just can't. But something he did say, Larry, obviously his press conference, he said a lot of things, some of them not fully true, which I'll come to in a second. But he said he got asked about, obviously, as he usually does, not going to lie, I think these journalists are teeing him up to say something because they know it's going to get a big reaction online. Obviously asking about the quality and the depth and all that kind of thing. And he's done this a few times this season where he's referenced Chelsea as the benchmark, and rightfully so. They're the best team in England, currently the only English side in the Champions League, obviously pushing for that as well. So they're not a bad benchmark to set your sights on. But what the exact quote, you look at Chelsea's depth at the minute, if Emma Hayes has some injuries, then she has the ability to change with really high quality players. I think the most successful managers have the ability to change players around. Now, I don't know whether I've read this differently to anyone else, but looking at Twitter, I think most are in agreement with how I've read it. That to me just seems like, again, he's looking at people on his bench and things like that going, I just don't think they're that good, is how I've read that.
Can we read the last bit of that quote again? So I think most good managers
have the ability to change players around.
Well,
which he's not doing anyway, by the way.
To say you can draw your own conclusions from that sentence there because he doesn't. Listen, first of all, in his defence, he's not wrong. Emma Hayes does have the ability to move her squad about, take one good player out and put another exceptionally good player in. Absolutely. We know that. The world knows that. Now, that's a fact. And we also have to take into account the fact that Chelsea have been incredibly successful over the last 5-6 years, for sure. And as a result, they're going to attract the highest quality. We had this conversation last season when we were finishing in second. We knew that even though we were there, we needed to qualify for the Champions League. This is why we were also, I know Amara's in the chat, so she'll be listening like a hawk. Not that hawks listen that great. They usually look better. But, listening like, I don't know, someone with massive ears. I don't know, King Charles. Or Gary Lineker, both of those would work. They've got huge ears. I've not seen the size of them. They're like the blinking BFG. I've lost my train of thought. Where was I going? Chelsea. She does have the opportunity to do that. She can swap those things around, no problem whatsoever, and it's easy for her. But they're at a high level. We were not at that level. We needed to show that we were going to get a lot better than we have been this season. We needed to BFG, the big friendly giant, mate. Never seen it. Roald Dahl. I think that's still allowed. He's only cancelled in a few of his stories. The BFG, though, I think is okay. I'm sure it's true, Colin. It's World Book Day tomorrow. We should be mentioning books today. It's very important. In fact, it was World Book Day today. We're only celebrating it tomorrow. This is massively going away from the serious point I was trying to make. Can't help myself. But there we go. Breathe, centre. We weren't in a position to get the high quality players that Chelsea have, because they're talking about players that are going to be playing Champions League, are going to be challenging. I mean, they could be in the Conti Cup final. They're 1-0 up already. So it could be a Chelsea-Arsenal final. You're in a situation with that. They couldn't do it. We couldn't get those players. So I'm going to give him that. He's not wrong. My argument would be, if you're going to sit there and say what he's just said about the players, they're not good enough effectively. We need better quality people. I'm just going to point out once again, who's making the bloody signings? Every time he opens his mouth, it's the equivalent of just a massive own goal. It's like he's tried to pass the ball back to Mary Earps, but rather than passing the ball back to her, he's just absolutely chuffing volleyed it into the top corner, rip roaring through the corner. You know, it's not even a ridiculous own goal. It's just one of those where you just think you're not helping yourself. If I'm brutally honest, some of the things he's saying, the way it's coming across, it's almost as if he's basically saying, please just sack me. Can we just end this now? Because I don't know why would you come out with that? First of all, you before a FA Cup match, you're sitting there and saying that about your players when you're down to the bare bones defensively anyway. You don't change your midfield. We've only got a World Cup player, winner, and Lisa Nielsen there. What is happening? We've got these players stuck in the middle of the park that never get the opportunity to play, which is fair enough. You've got players up front, which is fair enough. You could choose, but I said it right at the beginning, way back to the days of John Foster. Mark Skinner will live and die by the decisions he makes. And the decision he's made this season, well, we can see where it looks like he's going to end up going, because the man is just doing crazy things and it doesn't make any sense. So he's right, but the problem is that all he's doing is going, effectively what the quote should have said is, you're right, I haven't signed the correct quality of players or scouted decently enough or put the right amount of effort into purchasing players that were actually going to make Manchester United better, because he hasn't. If you look at the forwards that we've had, you look at the midfielders we've had, you look at all of these players that he's just got rid of, and a lot of them are people that he brought into the club. And that's unacceptable, really. That's unacceptable. And we stuck up for him all the way through last season. We've stuck up for him through most of this season. But you can't keep making these decisions and then put the blame onto somebody else. These are all Mark Skinner decisions. So whilst last season I would sit there and, you know, I would die on the hill that Mark Skinner deserved better than what he was being told on this situation. And Anton's saying there he sent Grace Clinton to Spurs as well. I don't particularly have a problem with that, insofar as Grace Clinton was not necessarily going to push Ella Toon out of position, and that's where she would need to play. But because there's this reluctance to change the formation, a reluctance to change what we're doing, not necessarily putting the two of them together, or making a bit of a change in that respect, she had to go out on loan, otherwise she was never going to get any football. And let's be brutally honest, by sending her off to Spurs, we've absolutely put, whether it be Mark Skinner or another manager, in a superb position, because now who's going to get rid of Grace Clinton? The person that does that would be absolutely mad, because they can see how well Grace Clinton has improved and what she's doing. So that's why you send players on loan. So I'm not massively bothered about the fact she's gone there. I'm hugely concerned about the fact that we never considered bringing her back or using her as competition for Ella Toon. But we're digressing. Mark Skinner needs to I don't know. Maybe he needs like a wheelchair, like what Stephen Hawkins had. But instead of it being one where it does the speaking when he types it in, it needs to have sort of like, it needs to go off to be fact checked and make sure, in other words, it needs like an idiot check. Is this really what you want to say? Like sometimes when you click on something, it says, do you really want to do this? It just kind of needs that just to make sure that what he's actually saying isn't an absolutely imbecilic thing to say, because at the moment, he's really not helping himself.
No, I agree. I think, I joke about it all the time that he just shouldn't be doing press conferences because it's just the stuff he's saying, and it's not just in public. You can imagine the conversations in private as well. But talking about, like I said, the less, like you said, why are you buying them then? Like I'm sorry, it's factually wrong. Like, yes, they may not be, the Chelsea level of quality. They're quality players. He's got Melvin Mallard, for example. I know she's had injuries coming in and out of the squad. And I think Sporty, I'm sure it was Sporty, maybe I should have started. It's not all about having, the big names and the best players. I put it on my tweet earlier. Managers find a way to get the best out of players. And for me, we've seen too many players this season go the other way and get worse than we've seen. I don't think we've seen a single player this season that have kicked on from last and has improved on last season. That's a question, actually. Have we had one?
Maybe Nikita Paris. Because the return on goals, you have to give her that, but I think that would probably be your main one.
Because obviously Jade's been exceptional, but she was injured all last when we got her, so it doesn't really count because she didn't play because she was injured, and Honor was in a position anyway. I don't think there's been any other player that he's improved since, even the new signs that have come in. Obviously, Jade, she's been brilliant, but she came from Barcelona. She was at Barcelona for a reason. They're the best team in the world. So. Yeah, I don't know. So, and yeah, you wait till the summer when we buy another player that can play in the bloody 8 position. Oh, I can't be bothered. Anyway, Sean, I'm going to ask you on that comment and just your overall thoughts on. Obviously, you said maybe the Brighton fans would potentially welcome that, because there seems to be a collective. There's still some, obviously fans of Mark Skinner, and we'll back him to the whatever he says and everything else. As Barry just said, we just react on what is happening, at the time and all that kind of thing. But there seems to be a collective. I don't know many Chelsea fans that like. I don't know many City fans that like Arsenal. It seems like most clubs are almost united in the fact that he's not doing a good enough job at United, and some of the things he's coming out with is not the right thing either. Do you think that's a fair reflection, or do you look at it maybe differently from a non-United point of view?
I think it's difficult because where do United want to be, where they think they'd be, and where they actually are, I think are two very different things. Because I would say last season was a bit of a fluke season. I know United were brilliant, but I think that second place has really hyped up a lot of people and has given perhaps unfair expectations on Skinner and the squad. Because I don't think they are this. They weren't. But I know Barry's looking at me, but I just think it's where United want to be, where they think they're going to be, and where they actually are. So I think they probably are the 4th, 5th best team in the WSL as it is. And is Mark Skinner the right manager for a team who are pushing 4th or 5th place? And you can argue probably not at this moment, but if you put him in a bottom 6 team in the WSL, I think he would be brilliant. I think he'd do really good at Brighton. I think he'd do wonders at a club like Bristol City, at West Ham, at Everton. I think he'd be really good. But then if he goes, the problem is, who do you hire? Because you can't go for the top names won't want to come to Man United because the project isn't quite exciting enough compared to a City, a Arsenal, a Chelsea. So then you're going to have to find that sort of middle manager again, and you might have to just repeat the cycle. Like, something has to change somewhere. And Skinner isn't saying the right things. That you can't say, oh, the players aren't it. Because I'm just looking at the bench against West Ham, and I'm thinking, as a Brighton fan, would I have these players? So Jem Evans, I adore Jem Evans. My feelings on Jem Evans are well known. It is not her fault in any way, shape, or form. Nelson, I would have Nelson in a heartbeat. Garcia, Tellis Joyce, Mannion, Irene. Like, I have all these players at Man United. The players aren't dreadful whatsoever. And it goes back to what you said, the managers can help mould players. But it's a very weird sort of middle. You're very split, I feel. I understand why United fans are the way they are, but I understand it's just a very weird situation where it's a bit of everything, but I also think a bit of realism needs to sink in for some United fans.
So, from that, I obviously said it's a bit of a fluke. We're never going to agree on that one. I just feel like everything else that was going on at the club that year, there's been a lot of changes, I think, between what happened last year and what happened this year. And so I can see why people would say that, but I'll never agree that it was a fluke. I think the table after the end of the season doesn't lie, and we're where we deserve to be. But it's completely different this season. It's been atrocious. What I wanted to ask you, though, is you said the job isn't as exciting as maybe a City, an Arsenal, or a Chelsea, the project. Why do you think that is?
Maybe the vision from up above. I mean, we've talked about up above at Man United for such a long time now. And if you look at Chelsea, if you look at Man City, if you look at Arsenal, I think when you go to, if a prospective manager went to the board of directors, say, right, what's your vision? It's clear. There's a clear, and there are plans in place to get there. Manager says, right, I could do that. No problem. I'll take you forward. With United, I don't think that plan is there yet. I think it's all of, well, we've got these players. We've got some that are out of contract. We don't really know what to do yet. We've got some good young players coming through, but we don't know if they're good enough yet. There are a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes. And I think for a manager, that's not very exciting. So take Sonia Bampastor, for example, who's going to go to Chelsea. There's no way she'd ever come to Man United because I don't think there's enough of a plan in place. The project isn't there to excite her. So then you're looking around like, is it a job for someone like Mel Phillips? I probably think maybe. But then it's so difficult because the problem I'll come back to is who would you hire? Who's your realistic hire for if and when Skinner goes? That's my question back to you.
Exactly. And that's what they need to be doing. We've said that all along. They need to be searching, actually, looking for that person, because if we get to the end of the season and they haven't made that decision and then they sack him, then it's more of the same, isn't it?
Because then otherwise you might have just have another Skinner-esque figure in, and you're just going to repeat the cycle once again until something...
Anyway, you know the argument. You know what people are going to say. Every time we've asked it, Serena Wiegman's coming, apparently. They've got some sort of magic lamp they're going to rub, and all of a sudden Serena Wiegman just goes, why would I want to be a World Cup winner or a European Cup winner again when I could just go and take the job at United? What cracks me up, look at these people in the chat going, we'll get the Spurs gaffer, as if he's just going to up and go, oh yeah, great idea. Yeah, there we go, and take the poison chalice. I don't think people realise, like you say, it's going to take someone who needs to take a punt. We need the people up above to really go and sell a project. They've got to sell something, like you said. They really do have to sell it. And I don't think they have managed to do that as yet. And that for me is the huge thing. They've got to go away, find someone who they think can do it. And it has to be, like you say, this is what we're going to give you. This is what we're going to do. And I don't think we've necessarily done that. What do you reckon, Condog?
Well, that's why I say, I've said this repeatedly for the last couple of months. This summer is going to be massive in terms of how I think they view the women's team. Is it just the fact that they needed a women's team to tick the box and say, look, we're Man United, we've got a team for both? Or is it just going to be, we've got it there, we're quite happy just having it there. Maybe they'll compete for a trophy every now and then and potentially break the top three every few seasons. Or, Jim Ratcliffe and the new women's structure that they're going to put in place, are they actually going to go, hang on a minute, no, we want to topple Chelsea. We want to really go and push the league, go into the Champions League and try and, take over, obviously, in the Champions League. For me, this summer is massive because, as you said, if Mark is to be going, it's going to be very much a case of selling the project. Because if you're a manager looking at it going, look, and it's been referenced in the chat quite a few times, the Athletic article that came out earlier in the week, and this is stuff, obviously, Barry, we've spoken about this off camera, because it's stuff we've heard for a long time in terms of the mess that's going on above Mark. So it's not all on Mark, this. There are issues away from him as well. I think Barry spoke about this on Monday, that if he is to go, they need to sort above him as well, because otherwise it's going to be the same situation where the new manager comes in. That's not to completely excuse him, as I think Highlane put it. The games we've dropped points this season, you're looking at pretty much the bottom four at Bristol aside, you know, in the likes of West Ham, Leicester, and so on. Obviously, I know Liverpool are doing pretty well as well. So for me, there's a lot of things going, and these conversations are happening. There's not been a decision made on Mark yet, but it's, I don't know. Going back to the original question, I just think very much it's just, like you said, but I think he knows he's under pressure, clearly, and I think he's saying things now that it's very reactionary. It's very much just just saying things off the cuff, and I don't think he must realise though, because United have got so many press officers and people that deal with these things, the backlash that these things get. So he must be aware. So whether he does that on purpose to deflect from other things, you know, that could potentially, I've said this before, maybe that's a thing. He says certain things because he knows that will get the attention, and the rest of the stuff he says will go under the radar a bit and distract from other things. There's potential there as well.
Do you know, I've got two things to say about that. The first thing I've actually just completely forgotten, so I'll go to the second thing whilst I try to remember what that first thing was. But the thing you just said there about saying what he says for the deflection, I could live with that. But he also needs to understand that those are the sort of things you can do if you're a successful manager. Like Alex Ferguson could come out at any given point and pretty much say whatever it was he wanted, and we'd just sit there and go, "Go on, Alex," and we'd do that because we were sold into what he was selling us. The problem is we're so divided. Like even, I mean, dare I say it? I don't really want to speak for you, Connor, but even people like you and I are sitting here and just going, I think it might be the end. We might just have to cut ties, because you can't keep saying the type of things that he's saying, because it's driving the fans up the wall. Like, yes, it's going to take the attention, but it makes him look like an absolute moron, and it makes us look stupid. And I don't mean us as in you and I. We do a great job of that ourselves. I'm talking about, you know, us as in a club. It makes us look really, really silly. Especially when it's completely against what we're seeing from him. You know, like you say, you talk about rotation, but he doesn't rotate. So yeah, I can't get my head around it. I remembered the first thing was that Ineos have actually come out and said, as I said before, as long as they've got a badge that represents Manchester United, we need them to be doing the best that they can possibly do. So, you know, I'm hopeful. You know, I sit here, again, it's words. Until we see the actions, it won't mean anything. But I'm hopeful that the plan is that they are going to come out and do something positive and give us what the girls deserve. You know, it's what women's football deserves. And I think, now you often talk about it when you talk about things such as, you know, big things like racism and all that sort of stuff. You talk about people being the change you want to see, but you also talk about like misogyny and how actually it's the men that need to come out and tell the other men to stop being idiots. It's not down to the women to try and do that. And I think this is a similar sort of situation when you're trying to get football clubs across the country to really invest in their women's football team and to help get them off the ground. That starts with the big clubs. The big clubs need to do that. And I would say that Manchester United are the people that need to start doing that. When big clubs like City are doing it, Chelsea are doing it. I mean, Chelsea can't even be called a big club anymore, but there they are doing it. Good stuff. You know, they've got the best women's team in the league so far. Arsenal are doing it. Spurs are starting to take it more seriously. Newcastle are doing it and taking it more seriously. And what are we doing? It's like a pet project. It's like when I was younger and you used to get a Tamagotchi and you just forgot to look after it after a couple of ones. And, oh, don't worry, that's dead. I'll just do a new one. But it's not like that in real life. So, yeah.
And it's not because I had this debate with somebody on Twitter not so long back when people say, oh, but you have invested, you were the highest spend. It's not just money and throwing it in a transfer window. There's so many things behind the scenes. The level of coaching, you know, it's not just Mark. People forget this when they say, oh, just get rid of Mark and everything beyond. There's two coaches, the two assistant coaches, Charlotte and Dan. I don't believe are elite level coaches that are going to sell the project when players are talking amongst themselves and going off in other things. You've got obviously the facilities, something that Mark, you know, said in his thing today about, oh, United should be, you don't want to hear about the good things. Well, that's on United. We had a brand new facility that is amazing. I've heard a lot of good things about it from people in the round. United. Advertise it then, put it out there, do more videos on it and push it out. That's on you to be talking about that, not Mark. I'm on about the club. So there's so many things like that. It's not just about throwing money at the transfer window. That's great, and it will get you the players. But we saw what happened. We saw the highest spenders first we've ever done it. The highest spenders last summer, and we're on track for our worst ever season in the WSL. So it's not all about just throwing money in the transfer window. It's actually giving you time and sorting out things behind the scenes with the coaches and other things as well that are going on, not just buying players and things like that. Because ultimately, it's how you treat the people. Yeah, when you're looking at players' contracts, this was something else that was in the Athletic article about leaving players' contracts so long. I speak about it on here, a number of times. The player that I refer to when literally got left, here's a contract, we'll leave you the whole season, come to you at 3 weeks before the end of the season. Oh, are you going to sign this? No, I told you that last year. Oh, okay, well, we'll up it now. Well, too late, I'm going. That's the kind of thing that we've been dealing with for the last couple of years. So it's incredibly frustrating. I'm going to have to shut up because I'm going to get myself into trouble. I think if I carry on, because I will start going off on a rant. Have you got anything to finish off, Sean, when it comes to Matt Skinner? I saw you on mute a couple of times when we were talking there.
It's just, I think, beyond Skinner, I think it's keen to remember that, and you may say, oh, this is a bit silly, a bit random point, but this iteration of Manchester United is still quite new in the grand scheme of things. And you've done so much so quickly. And I know the name Manchester United carries such a big reputation, but this is all just teething problems clubs have early on in their lives. This happened to Chelsea, this happened to Arsenal, this happened to Manchester City. It does take 10, 15 years to really establish yourselves and where you stand in women's football. And I think it's just a wider issue of just, this is what will happen. Give it another 5, 10 years, you'll know exactly where you are. You'll know exactly what the project is. It just comes about with being a new team as well, I think. And look, you're gonna have bumps on the road. You're gonna go through managers. We all know that. It'd be brilliant to have the same manager and just keep winning all the time. If everyone can find that, God, football would be so much easier. But no, it just comes with being one of the newer teams, and you'll find everyone finds their way eventually, and Man United will find their way. You just have to get the right people in, know what you want to do, know the kind of club you want to be, and then build on from there.
Fingers crossed. We should hopefully for United point of view, we'll see that in the short and long-term future of a club, because it's like I said, we're on track at the moment for our worst ever season. So hopefully we can end it off with a trophy, which is not something we've done since we've been in the WSL. So bringing it back to the game, hopefully we win on Saturday and obviously go on and lift the FA Cup. But I think, Barry, you said it earlier, about 5 minutes ago, so I don't want to speak for the both of us. Like I think I said before, if we win the FA Cup, that's not going to change my mind. When it comes to Mark and things like that, I've pretty much made unless I see significant change in the way that he speaks and the way that we've seen things on the pitch and start performing better than we have done. Obviously if he gets offered a new deal and we see that into next season, then maybe I'll change my mind. But at the moment, I don't think an FA Cup is going to cover up those other things as well. I know JD wanted to rant away one day, maybe. I'll save it for a potential another time. On that one. Barry, I'll come to you in terms of the 11s then. Obviously, what do you want to see from the 11 point of view? We now know, obviously, Jaycee would be in the Gold Cup final this weekend. She obviously is not going to be back for Saturday's game. There's talk of Jade Riviere being back in contention, although I'm not entirely sure how true that is on that one. What do you want to see in regards to a team lineup and picking a potential squad for Saturday?
Want to see or expect to see?
See, last season they were the same thing, but it's not this season.
Yeah, exactly my point. I used to just be able to name the squad, and then Skinsey would actually pick that squad, and we won games. This season, he's tried to go it alone, and the poor sods realised that he's not as good as I was, which is a shame. So, listen, what I would like to see, I'm just going to live on with the fact that Mary Earps is going to start every game regardless of what happens now. So we'll put Mary Earps there. Fallon Tullis-Joyce is driving the minibus to the ground. That's what she's going to be doing. So that's her job. We'll get her sorted. She can help us get all the training kit and everything out. That'll be good. Left back, and this will come as no surprise to anybody who watches this channel, I would like to see Hannah Blundell. I'm working on the theory that May Letitia should go out to right back, and it will be Gemma Evans. And if I'm honest, if Millie Turner's not fit, depending on how she's got on, having come off at the weekend, if she's not well, then obviously she doesn't play, in which case I would genuinely say stick Hayley Ladd back there, because I'm not sure quite where Aoife Mannion's going on. That'd be a Welsh centre-back partnership. Haven't seen that for some time. So that would be how I would set up the back five. Aoife Mannion can be like on, magic sponge duty perhaps, or she can hand out the water bottles when people come over. That's a good job for Aoife. We can get her to do that. Midfield, obviously Katie Zellam's playing, because I think a Manchester United squad without Katie Zellam is not a Manchester United squad that's worth having, but the people know that anyway, so there we go. Plus her dad's the tooth fairy apparently, so why would you not want the daughter of the tooth fairy? So that's that one. Who would I put alongside? Well, you've got an option, haven't you? You could stick Lisa Nielsen in there. You could stick Hayley Ladd there if she's not in the defence, but I'm presuming that's where she's going to go. She's got Nielsen or Guerrero. And honestly, I think I would go for the World Cup winner, because why would you not? That's madness. She's won the World Cup. It's only the biggest trophy in the world. That's why it's called the World Cup. So I'd stick her in next to Katie Zellam. Obviously, Ella Toone is going to start due to the fact that all of the other people that could potentially play in that position are either at Spurs or effectively dead for the season. So we're not going to worry too much about them. So Ella Toone gets that job. From that point on, you start looking at your front three. There's no Jays, obviously, so Nikita Parrish is going to start in the middle because she scored the most goals this season, and that would be absolutely mental to not start your top goal scorer, which then just leaves you with your left and your right. It's got to be Mallard, I would think, and Leah Galton potentially, or Lucia Garcia. Any two of those three, as far as I'm concerned, could quite happily go on either of those wings. And then what you do is after about 70 minutes, you bring on Rachel the Tank Williams, and she comes on and scores the winner. And it wouldn't be her 51st WSL goal, so that doesn't work. So we'll just go 50, but it'll be another good goal for her. So that is what I would like to see. What I think I'm going to see is a hodgepodge, a mishmash, and something that's probably offensive to my eyes when I look at the team.
It's certainly going to be interesting. Kevin's put his kind of team in there saying, obviously, Jade, hopefully. I hope it's not. Nothing against Jade. I just don't think she's fully ready. People can make their own minds up on whether she should be starting or not, but I would be saving her because I know this is an important game and it's kind of all we've got this season, but it's not worth making it longer term. Sorry, I meant to figure out the rest of that. Obviously, Maya and Millie, Hannah at left. Obviously, Keats, Katie. I'm trying to work out the formation here because there's so many names. I'm trying to work out. Hayley or Lucy. Yeah, Lucy. Right, okay, yeah. That doesn't make sense on that one. No, he doesn't. That's why we love having him on.
Let's take a moment to go through the fact that he went for all first name people. And I usually only see that when it's under 18s women's football at the level that I'm at now. Genuinely, that blew my mind a little bit. I'm like, which one's which again? Who's going where? There's so much work that needs to go into that. Fair play to you for doing it. And no, I don't. I used to hold back a bit. But I don't really see the point, to be honest with you. I'm 42. I'm nearly dead, so might as well just get it out there while I can.
No, and it's an opinionist channel. As Barry said on Monday's show, you don't have to agree with him. You can disagree with everything he says if you want. But that's just his opinion. TJ, obviously speaking about Guerrero, what's the latest on her health? I think she's ready. There is an injury, by the way, in this squad. I can't tell you who it is. You'll find out on Saturday when the team comes out. I don't know why Mark's saying that there isn't. There is. So you'll find out on Saturday when that player is not in the squad at all. So that's the only thing I'm giving you this week. Sean, who is there to look out for from a Brighton point of view? Who's kind of obviously we know Turner. She's on the thumbnail. She's obviously top scorer of the season, 14 and 20, I think it is now. On that one, but who else? Obviously, for Brighton to look out for United to look out for from the Brighton side in terms of a lineup point of view.
Yeah, so for me, it's been a very weird last two games. I'm based in Cardiff, nowhere near Brighton. Don't ask about the connection. But I've been able to watch the last two Brighton games in full against Liverpool on telly, and I was at Ashton Gate for the game against Bristol City. And I've been really impressed. I think against Liverpool, we were unlucky. Bristol City blew them away, but still defensively a little scary. Apart from Turland, I think Katie Robinson has come on leaps and bounds this season. the way because Bristol City brought it back to 4-3 and it was looking quite scary. But the way Robinson just took the game by a scruff of the neck, just drove at opponents. And if it is to be Gemma Evans and that left back side, look out. Don't play Gemma Evans at left back. Gemma Evans is centre back and one of the greatest centre backs this country has ever seen. Wales, not England, I'm talking about there. So Katie Robinson, I think, is one for sure. And another one I think has gone really under the radar whenever she plays is Beatrice Sari, who is just this sort of Swiss army knife. She can play anywhere. She can play left back, left wing back, left mid, left wing, centre mid. She does everything. And just her technical ability, I think, is really, really good. And I don't think she goes noticed by many, but she can really cause damage. Her delivery, her shots from outside the box. She's got a great goal against Aston Villa in the Conti Cup. There's just so many different things that she could bring. But I want to go back to Katie Robinson because I think one story that's sort of gone under the radar in the WSL this season is Katie Robinson's out of contract this summer. And Mel Phillips said there were contract negotiations ongoing, but I asked Mike Harris last week, and those negotiations, he has no idea about negotiations. So from a United point of view, would you take Katie Robinson?
See, there was really strong links to her last summer as well, and I was actually convinced at one point that we might actually get that deal over the line. However, I have to see in Mallard, no. I would rather we get Mallard on a permanent than try and get, or potentially go back in for Caroline. So obviously she did her ACL, which obviously stopped us from pursuing that one. I'd be going back in for her over someone like Robinson. Not gonna lie, she's not saying she's not a bad player, but I think there's players that I would have above her. That's for sure.
Well, let me throw this question to you. Do you think she would get into a Chelsea squad?
No.
Do you think she would get into an Arsenal squad?
There is a world I see where she would fit into an Arsenal squad.
He's gone for the Doctor Who one, okay. Do you see her into the City squad?
If Hemp goes, I think she fits into that City squad.
Yeah,
the reason why I asked that is not because I'm trying to be a numpty. I mentioned those because obviously Chelsea we've just discussed, going with Skinner's comments, having the level of depth that they've got there. But equally, if it comes to City and Arsenal, and you think there is a chance where she could go there and improve the squad, then it's not a terrible shout that she could come to somewhere like United and improve the squad. But I think I would probably go along with Connor at this moment in time. I think we need players that are ready to go and can hit the ground running. And that's the problem. When you're trying to be in the top three of this wonderful league, ultimately you need players that are ready because, as we've just seen, Grace Clinton wasn't seen as being ready. So we sent her out to Bristol. She was done really well. So then we sent her out again thinking, it's only the championship. And now look, she's lighting up the WSL and getting an England debut. That's the problem we've got. I feel like he's in a situation where he can only pick players that he feels he trusts. And it's a worry that he doesn't trust so many players that he personally has brought into the club. So that's my big worry.
Just from a Man United point of view, the former players, I think Maria's still doing really well. She's doing a centre-back partnership with fellow Norwegian Guru Bergsvand, and they've formed a really good partnership this season. I think she got caught out once against Bristol City where they scored, where she just came out of defence, just had a bad touch, and they scored. But other than that, I think she's been a really commanding figure at the back, has been a really vital addition for us, and she goes from strength to strength. And then Sophie Bagley in goal, still really good keeper. Thank you very much for her.
Do you think they'd be happy to see Mark Skinner walking through the door at summer like you would? There's you throwing a party. Do you think they'd be happy, or do you think that would be...
I think there'd be a transfer request on the bloody table.
It's an interesting one because I spoke to... So when Carrie Jones left Manchester United at the start of the summer, there was a Wales camp very soon after, and I asked, what are your thoughts on Mark Skinner? And she said Mark did really well for her. She had no bad word to say about Mark Skinner, helped her development, really pushed her on, and she credited Skinner for a lot of good things that she's gone on to do. So I think for younger players, which I think a lot of this Brighton squad, they want to target the younger players. I think that's why, again, I think Skinner would be a good appointment. So I think maybe from someone like Bagley's point of view, because she is the number one here, Skinner would be stupid if he was to come in and move her straight away from being number one. Maria, maybe a few more problems, but No, I think for the younger players, I think that's a big point of Skinner, is that he can bring these younger players through. And I don't know why he's doing it in Man United. If he doesn't think his bench is strong enough, bring through some of the academy players. Why not?
You could just imagine it, can't you? You see the reason why Leicester are in 11th and we're in 12th is because they've got a bigger depth of players that they can choose.
Oh god, I'd love to see that. On Maria, didn't she get one of the assists at the weekend? And wasn't it like a Rabona type cross or something like that she did, if I remember rightly? Did I see that, or am I completely making this up?
I'm instantly now flicking through, thinking, did she? It was only for the third goal, which was a scrappy corner, and she laid it off beautifully for Elizabeth Turland. But I did not see a Rabona. If I saw a Rabona cross from Maria Thorstadottir, it'd be straight up on Twitter, and our admin team would milk the living daylights out of it. But no, I don't think I did see Rabona. But we were very high up in the press box at Ashton Gate, and there's no screen, so I'm going to blame that if I did miss it.
They're saying yes in the chat. I reckon I'm going to have to. I'm scrolling back because I sent it to someone. That's how I remember it. Because I sent it to people, obviously Phil O'Connor. If people don't know, he'll be back on the All 4 channels in the next couple of weeks, by the way. But I sent it to him because obviously the connection with the Norway squad and so on. I'm just getting it up now. So it's the corner. It is Turland. Let's have a look. I appreciate no one can actually see what I'm watching here, but let's have a look. Oh yeah, it was a bit scruffy, but it was like a little Rabona pass into her and in turn and slots it into the bottom right.
There's nothing that woman can't do. Simply,
I love Maria. I'd have kept both Norwegians at United, as people know, but it's the less said about that, the better. And yeah, sister Turner, by the way, can we get her at United when we're looking at elite level forwards? Let's get her through the door.
There we go. No, if we stay up, no thanks.
That's a question actually I have. Do you think she is going to get a big? Because I can see her. I don't know how long she's got left in her contract. I think she's close to a big move to a Champions League side.
No, she is. Let's be realistic. She is far too good for us this season. And she's come on so much this season. Like last season, she was scoring goals here and there. This season, different level. So if you're looking at where she'd move to next, I hope it wouldn't be United in the nicest way possible, because I think it would be a bit of a sideways step rather than a big upward step for her. If she is going to make a move, I want her to go to someone big who is going to push Europe, who is going to be in the Champions League, because I think that's where she deserves to be playing.
Do you know what? Honestly, I'd like to see some longevity with some of these players and some of these teams. You see so many that might turn up and just spend a season or just a little bit of time at a club. And actually, I think it would be nice to start seeing some people putting down some roots, because when they do that, it only makes the WSL and surrounding leagues more exciting, more competitive. And actually, I think having somebody like Elizabeth Turland at Brighton is a really good thing, because it means that Brighton are a difficult side to come up against. It means you've got to be careful. Gone are the days when you should be able to turn up at some of these teams that are in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th place and steamroll them. And that's where it sort of needs to be. So it'd be really nice for me, actually, if this season, even if she did get offers, if she went, no, it's fine, thank you, I'm under contract, I might consider it the season after. Because the reason I say that is Brighton have given her a year. Granted, it's been a season, and yeah, they might not have been the most successful they've ever been, although they might make it through to the next round of the FA Cup. They might win it. All of a sudden, that's a brand new thing to talk about. But I think actually by doing that, it would be lovely if she went, well, do you know what? My profile, like the same conversation we were having with Mary about Mary Earps, kind of, at the end of the day, yes, they've made my profile a bit higher. People like myself and other watchers of WSL now know who she is in a much more concrete fashion. So it'd be nice if she went, well, you know what, I'm going to pay that back. I'll give them another season, see what we can do there. But I'm only going to get better. I'm not going to get worse. Clearly the coaching is working and they're doing all of those sorts of things. So for me, I'd really like to see that sort of thing happening. I'm not talking that we're going to have loyalty forever where, players spend 20 years at a club and all that sort of stuff. But it would be nice to start seeing, when these names and figures start getting talked about, just that little bit of loyalty still being shown around some of these clubs that have put effort in and money and try to build a team around them, because otherwise there's so much chopping and changing. If Brighton get rid of them, then they've then got to try and find players of a similar quality. And if they don't manage to do that, they're going to drop down the leagues again, and they start losing the money and the revenue they could have had, and before they even really got their claws into the ice. So that's what I'd like to see, but maybe I'm a bit of a old-fashioned romantic in that respect.
I think it's going to be difficult for her when I know she's going to have offers. Well, TJ, people have already answered. She, as True said, 13 goals, 1 assist in 20 games, and in a team that is struggling, 22.
So you did that very well as well. You carried it on while speaking. Yeah,
so
that was in your ear on that
one. So for a player that's still relatively young, 13 goals, 1 assist in 20 games in a struggling team as well. Obviously, I'd be happy with that at United, let alone, well, we are a struggling team as well, to be fair.
I mean, she's 22. This time next year, she's going to be 23. In terms of her impact and what's going on for her career, it's not a killer. It's not like we're saying put a 5-year contract down, you're going to be 27, 28 when you leave, and then you've got to look for these big contracts like they do in the men's game. You can afford to go 2-3 years at a time and not be a problem. I mean, I don't know. You tell us, Sean, although unless Connor's got something else he wanted to finish with there. But would you rather have somebody like Turland for 2-3 seasons who might help you get to another FA Cup final or something like that? Or would you rather that you only had her for a little while, but then, she was like the first £1 million transfer signing or something like that? What would be better? Because I feel like the figures are so minuscule in women's football at the moment that actually the transfer fees seem irrelevant. It's more about trying to be able to build a team.
It's a difficult one because I think Brighton are a selling club. We bring players in, think about it, and they go on and do better things. I think we know where we stand in terms of that. I think Turland's one of those players who has come in, has done really well this season. I think one more season, if she can stay one more season and then go on, I'd be delighted. But if she feels like she needs to strike while the iron's hot, and the club feel like, if we get a decent fee, we're going to have to let you go. And I don't think many fans would begrudge her if she did move, because I think she would go with a lot of fans' blessing, and because we know what she can do. We know she'll score goals wherever she goes. And look, I'd love to keep everyone that comes through Brighton stuff. Most of them, some of them, I'm quite happy they're gone. But no, there's a lot of players who come through Brighton stores I'd love to keep. And Turland is one of those. But if she keeps going the way she is, and a really good bid comes in, then no one's going to blame the club or her for moving on.
Yeah, it's going to be tough because, as I said, she's going to have interest from clubs in the Champions, well-established clubs in the Champions League as well. Erling's made the point, potentially Bayern, reunited obviously with Alex Strauss at Bayern Munich, and they've got a good Norwegian contingent there as well. So I could fully see that. Like I said, I think there's just going to be so much interest in her for herself and her own career. It might be too hard to turn down, if she's got an offer from a club where she thinks this is my chance while my stock's the highest. And maybe she goes to, obviously, Brighton aren't in the Champions League next year unless they go on and win it this year, which is probably not going to happen. But, obviously did come from SK Brown, obviously in Norway. Obviously where Martin Ho is currently at. Can you? I don't know what I would
imagine that we're sitting there scraping to fourth, and Martin Ho, the assistant manager, just goes walking in and wins the Champions League. I'd be done, absolutely done. We'd all know everything at that moment in time, wouldn't we?
For sure. And speaking of knowing all highlight, so this is something I'm still working on. The problem is because she's not a lioness, it's not as well-tracked story as people might think. Maybe it will one day. Maybe I'll just come out and say it and get myself into massive trouble for actually revealing. But the long and short of it is she was just forced out when she didn't want to go. And the manner it was dealt with was just not good. And it rightly upset a lot of the squad. Just not how you treat people on that one. But thankfully, the person who dealt with that, Polly Bancroft, is leaving anyway. So that's good. On that one, I'm with Erling. I can't see Brand being Barcelona.
Say it again. Imagine if he does. Imagine. This is what I'm saying. Oh, it'd be big.
I don't even have anything to add because I don't even know. I can't even imagine it in my head. I think it'll be closer than people think, but yeah, I don't know. We'll save that for another show. We'll save that for the Women's Football Show. We come on to that one. should we wrap it up with score predictions and things like that in terms of what we think for Saturday from a score prediction point of view? I've still not thought about this. I've had an hour and 5 minutes and I've still not talked myself into a United win yet, in 90 minutes anyway. Because I don't know, me personally, to be fair, if it goes to penalties, I'll be more confident because if I remember right, the penalty shootout Brighton had against Villa was shocking. So if it goes to penalties, I'm pretty confident. Who wants to throw themselves on the ledge first with it?
I'll give it to the confident person. He knows what he's thinking. I'll give a couple more minutes.
I was thinking about it, and I think we're going to concede because we do concede. If we keep a clean sheet, then that in itself is a win for us. Even if we lose on penalties, a 0-0 draw and lose on penalties would be quite an achievement. But we will concede, but we will score. I'm very confident we're going to score, and scoring 7 last week is really boosted confidence. 6 different goal scorers. It's just the whole squad thinks right. And Mikey Harris said after the game on Sunday, we're going to go out there and just give it to him. Give him hell. So I'm going to say 3-1 Brighton because I genuinely feel this might be it.
I don't, because I'm going to be inclined to believe you.
So worse is that you're usually quite measured, and that's a worry. Listen, I'm going to say, I just defensively, we're not at it at the minute, but we've still got a lot up front. So do you know what? I'm going to go for a scoreline I never thought in a million years I'd predict. I'm going to say 4-3 to Manchester United.
I can see it being high score. I agree with you there. I think this is going to be like a 3-2 or a 4-3 or something like that.
Somebody's been had a good dinner. Just come back from the Rose and Crown.
Whatever you're drinking, I'll have some of that when I come off here in a minute.
Blimey.
Yes, Catherine's with me. Those penalties were shocking against. So, do you think Sean Brighton will play it for penalties, or do you think they'll try and win it? Within 90 on this one.
No. What I was really confident with what Harry said after the Bristol game. It was just literally, we're going to go out, we're going to do everything we want, improve defensively. That's all he wanted to do this week is improve defensively, which would be, we conceded 3 to Bristol City. It's not a great sign to start with, but no, we're going to go out, give them everything. Don't care. There's no pressure. There's no pressure on Brighton. There's absolutely no pressure, and that'll play into it. And nope. We'll be absolutely fine.
That's what worries me a little bit when you talk about pressure. We didn't really touch on this in the show, but there is pressure on us, massive, because this is literally our season in a game. We lose on Saturday, that's essentially our season done in terms of fighting for a trophy or for a top 3 finish. Obviously, it's still mathematically possible, but I think we're all pretty much agreed that's not going to happen. So there's so much on it. I'm so nervous because it's like our whole season is just almost riding on 90 minutes or 120 and penalties, whatever it goes to. And I don't know. I really don't know. I know what Anton's saying. A lot of the goals because I was obviously at the game at West Ham, and I was like, what a mental game this is. Bristol have pulled it back. It's 3-3, and all of a sudden, it's 4. It's 5. It's 6. It's 7. Like just 3 goals in the 90th minute, which obviously did push the scoreline up a hell of a lot.
It was late, but I would say the way Brighton handled it, because Bristol City went 4. It was 4-3 from the 75th minute, so there was plenty of time for Bristol to go on a win. But the way Brighton controlled it, and from the 80th minute, we could have scored a lot more than just 7. Like we really went at them, and that gave us confidence as well. The fact that we weathered the storm, came back, and managed to push forward at will. That gives you confidence as well.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Like I said, I really can't. I will go for a United win because I never predict anything otherwise, unless we're playing, like a Chelsea, and then I'll predict a draw because I can never just predict a United loss. Even though if people looked at the predictions league, I did predict the United loss a few weeks back, but there we are. I'm going to go. I'm inclined to agree with you, Barry. Like a 4-3. I'll go 4-2. I think we'll only concede twice. I say only. I think we'll concede twice, but we'll have the firepower. So I'm really hopeful because we've not had it, for a while. One of the good things last season, we put games to bed. We've not done that this season. You only have to look at West Ham. Last weekend we scored early. had a couple of chances after that, didn't take them, and then just tried to sit on a 1-0 lead, and obviously that backfired. I think she probably does. Congrats to Nikita Paris, by the way. She did win the Fans Player of the Month for Barclay for the WSL. So congrats to her.
Did she get it and go, I think you mean Ella Toon?
Speaking of Ella Toon, will Paris to show up? That's about
I think it's in the contract.
Yeah, I hope so. We need them both to be hit. We need the whole squad to be hit on form. I muted myself.
Hey, is this some sort of new game we got to play? Is this like the bleep for when people swear?
Yeah, nobody knew what I said then. No. It's probably a good thing.
No sense you made all play. So,
so we'll see what happens come Saturday. Yeah, going through the score predictions, people put a few 1-0s in there. Quite a few 1-0s in there, a couple of 2-1. So everyone thinks it's going to be close, which is obviously the feeling amongst the fan base on that one. There was a question ages ago, and I wanted to send the show off, but I do want to go back. I hate ending it really on the negative, but since I like answering, if people ask questions in the chat, I like actually answering them. And I know it was Highland that put it, but I can't find the question. I really should have started. No. It was definitely Highland that asked it. It was talking about Mark Skinner's press conference, and it was talking about Mark saying about the players not needing to need motivation. I think it was. Let me find the quote because I do have it. Yes. So his exact quote, I've got it in front of me. Sometimes it's better to have a team that can be self-driven in moments. I don't feel that this team needs motivating, is what he said. I mean, like Highland said, it implies that they're still a team and still going for it together. But at the same time, it's like I always say, you shouldn't need motivation from the manager. For me, you should be motivating yourself as an individual, as a player, to go out there and perform. However, there is a sense of the tone is set by the people at the top. So Mark, the people above him, if that tone is not being set correctly, you're not going to be as motivated, are you? Is how I look at it. So, and I agree with James, what he's just put there. For me, every team needs motivation, otherwise why are you doing it?
Of course they do. I think, if I'm honest, this just smacks again of if they're not motivated, this is their problem and not mine. It's a deflection again. And this is the problem, is that at the moment, everything seems to be deflected onto the players. And just once, it would be nice if he stepped up and said, yeah, I made a mistake here, or I picked the wrong team, or I made the wrong substitutions. It just doesn't seem to happen. There doesn't seem to be this point where there's any ownership taken by the coaching staff. And I don't just mean just Mark Skinner, but the whole staff. Like, where's his responsibility? It's your job to motivate them. There's no secret. Again, Fergie was asked after the treble, what did you say to them at half time? And he just went, just imagine walking past that trophy and not being able to touch it. And granted, it took 46 minutes for that to actually get into their heads and realise they needed to score a goal to do that. But then, crikey, they did it. Like, motivation is 100% it. You listen to the Ollie interview. We're going to be talking about that on the men's channel in a bit. But you listen to that interview and how he spoke about, even though he was a sub, he was annoyed, but he wanted to come on and sort of go, oh, I'll show you, not starting me, picking somebody else over there. It's about that motivation. You can't just turn around and say, oh, they don't need motivation. They're fine. They know what they're doing. Because my argument would be following. One, if he's not doing the motivating and he thinks they don't need motivating and you're looking at what we're seeing, then he's wrong and he probably shouldn't be a football manager, full stop, because there's a problem there. But two is that if he thinks the players don't need motivating and that's the sort of performances we're going to get, then he really does need to question the players that, once again, he bought. So again, either way, it's just another classic example. This one probably isn't, a thumping own goal into the top corner, but it's definitely gone in off his backside.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I just can't be bothered with a lot of what he says these days. But it is Mark Skinner press conference day, so we have to talk about it. And we'll come back to him, I'm sure, on Monday, regardless of result, because I'm sure something he'll say will come up conversation whether we win or lose, whatever, on that one. Sure, before we wrap this one up then, if you want to shout out where people can find your socials, things like that, and in terms of what you're going to be up to next. Obviously, I know that the Welsh League is it paused at the moment, or it's finished for a bit?
Yes, so we are phase 2 is just about to begin on Sunday. So we have a top 4, bottom 4 all facing off. Relegation and title still very much up for grabs at both ends of the table, so it's going to be very exciting for us. We've got cup finals coming up. We've got one cup final between Cardiff and Swansea, and the other between Cardiff and Wrexham. Lovely for the FAW. They've got what they wanted, a Cardiff Wrexham final. Get Rob and Brian in. It'll be an absolute, and to see them in somewhere in the middle of Wales just fills me with joy. But no, all good Welsh League stuff. Welsh women as well. A decent draw for the qualifiers. We've got playing Croatia up in Wrexham. So if any of you United fans don't fancy watching England or the Lionesses, welcome. Come along. Racecourse is a lovely ground to watch football. So come along. But yeah, find me on my Twitter, which is there. Same as my TikTok. Just give me, anything Welsh related, because we've got a really good group of United players, young and old, who are breaking into the team. So, yeah, any of that, can give us a follow. But, no, thank you very much for having me once again. But I feel like I should just cheer you both up. This is so, I'm used to you both being quite happy and optimistic.
I've been hilarious through this 65, 75 minutes. But I did want to ask, why is the racecourse ground called the racecourse ground when it's a football ground?
Oh, now you're testing me. I imagine there used to be a racetrack back in 1800s, because the racecourse is the oldest international football ground in the world. So it's been there a good long while. But I think there was a racecourse of some stage around it, but not too sure. I'm not a Wrexham fan, but it's a historical ground. It's a lovely ground. If you ever get the chance to go, please go. It's a wonderful, wonderful ground. And good pubs.
I feel like I have been there. I feel like I also need to check Footballogy just to check that I actually am.
I may well join you potentially at a Wales game, that's for sure. So I don't know which games I'll be at.
Now I'm hoping to get up for a United game though. There's one week where I've got nothing on. I think it's United Spurs. I'm going to hopefully try and make it up, because I do want to come to LSV and experience the whole experience, the whole vibe, and hopefully I'll be able to do that this season.
There we go. And for me personally, going to Brighton on Saturday, it'll be finally, I'll have ticked off every single ground in the WSL. So Brighton's the last. So it'll be good to tick that one off, and then I can do my little video on rating all the grounds been to in the league. So we'll see how good Brighton fares up.
I can confirm I have been to the racecourse ground, and I can confirm it was indeed a delightful stadium. So, yes.
This is what I want to hear. Thank you very much. Yeah, but, Connor, Barry, don't have high hopes of Crawley. Please don't. It's next to Gatwick Airport for a reason.
I've been to Crawley before. I've never been to the ground.
I've also been to Crawley before, and the ground. Both of these places I went to is Stevenage. Yes, Crawley is a darn sight different. Crawley is basically a tin shed.
We'll have fun. We'll have each other.
If we win,
you're not coming, sure.
I'm driving back on my own. If we end up losing on Saturday, I might end up just booking a hotel, because I don't think I want to drive back 3 and a bit hours on my own just after a loss like that. So it's going to be fun, isn't it? But no, yeah, and we will cheer up, I'm sure. I've had 4 hours sleep, by the way, so I
just want to come back to this. He is a delight. We were sat there at the weekend going, what should we do? Are we going to do one? We have played Brighton twice already, and my exact words were yes, because we get the chance to have Sion on. Yes,
that's very kind
I
of
would
you.
happily pay Brighton every week if it meant we got to have a show with you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. No, I love appearing on these, and no, thank you so much for having me every time.
No, it's all good on that one. So yeah, make sure you like the video, subscribe, all of that kind of stuff. We'll be back on Monday at 7 o'clock, obviously talking about the game. We'll obviously have the Awful Women's Football show at 8:30 as well. Jess is in the hosting seat for that one, so make sure you come over and check us out on both platforms on Monday. They're very, I don't know, I didn't think I was going to answer this, but there was a question a bit earlier on in terms of why my secrecy when I say certain things is purely to protect certain sources and so on like that. That's literally the reason, and I hope you can appreciate why I can't come on here and just say everything that I want to say, because I've got certain people to protect when it comes to that side of things. So I'll say what really I can.
Your sources. That's why they've got lids. Why is there spills everywhere? It's no good.
I knew that was coming. So hopefully you can appreciate that. I will say what I can, and hopefully you can get the gist of what I am saying on that one. But we can come back to that on Monday. When you can find out what I hinted at earlier on the show. So make sure you like the video, subscribe, and all of that kind of stuff. Have a good weekend, whatever you are doing this weekend, whether you're at games all weekends, not at a game at all, or if you just watched on TV. Have a great weekend all, and we shall see you guys on Monday.